Welcome to AI Unraveled, a podcast all about, well, AI. It's created and produced by Etienne Newman, a senior software engineer and passionate soccer dad. He's from Canada.
Uh-huh.
And if you're enjoying these explorations into the world of AI, please do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us out.
So today, we're going to take a deep dive into a fascinating snapshot of the AI landscape. It's from March 16th, 2025. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, I remember. I think we all remember.
Right. Big day for AI. You sent us this really interesting daily chronicle of all these AI advancements that were happening back then. And you were really curious about, the immediate impact and potential future trajectories across different sectors.
Right.
But you didn't want to get bogged down in all the technical stuff, right?
Exactly.
So our goal today is to really just extract the most significant developments and what they mean for you, the listener.
All right, let's jump right in. And I think the first thing that jumps out is this: a potential AI price war. Baidu's recent moves with their ERNIE models, it feels like a real shakeup, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. I mean, Baidu, they come out with ERNIE 4.5 and ERNIE X1, and they're directly challenging, the big guys. You've got OpenAI's GPT-4, you've got DeepSeek's R1.
Oh, the heavy hitters.
Yeah, exactly. But what's really interesting, and I think maybe even more important, is their pricing strategy. I mean, they're offering ERNIE 4.5 at like half the cost of DeepSeek R1,
Half.
and then they just go and make ERNIE Bot free.
Whoa. That's a bold move. I mean, what does this mean for OpenAI and Google? Are they going to have to react to this?
I think they might have to. Baidu's move, it could really force these major AI providers to rethink their pricing. They might have to consider, lowering their prices too, or maybe offering, more free services. I mean, they're going to want to stay competitive, especially in the Chinese market.
Right. And potentially globally, too.
Yeah, exactly. And it really raises a big question, doesn't it? Like, are we going to see a commoditization of these foundational AI models?
Which, if I'm following you correctly, could be really good for businesses and developers, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if these powerful AI tools become more affordable, then more people can use them.
Right.
Startups, big companies, everyone. And that
Right.
could lead to a real explosion of innovation.
I see what you mean. Like suddenly things that were too expensive before, like personalized customer experiences or sophisticated data analysis, they become accessible to a wider range of companies.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
But hold on a second. What about the companies that, their whole business model is built around subscriptions to these AI services? I mean, this must be a huge challenge for them.
It is. It's a huge challenge. I mean, if powerful AI becomes really cheap or even free, these companies are going to have to figure out a new way to make money. They might have to, focus on more specialized applications or maybe offer premium features or even switch to consulting and integration services. It's going to be interesting to see how they adapt.
It is. So for you, the listener, what does this all mean? Well, if you're interested in, getting up to speed with AI and using it for your own projects or businesses, this price war is actually a good thing. It means it's becoming more accessible. It's like the price of admission is going down.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's move on to another area where AI is having a big impact: startups.
Right. And there's this really interesting report from Y Combinator. They're seeing record growth and profitability among their startups. And a lot of that is being driven by, AI.
Oh, wow. So it's not just hype. There are real results.
Oh, yeah, it's more than hype. These startups are really integrating AI into everything they do.
Like how?
They're using it to automate tasks, cut costs, and speed up innovation.
I see.
And we're seeing AI being used in so many different areas. You've got e-commerce, financial services, biotech, it's everywhere.
So it's not just like a little feature they're adding on.
Yeah.
It's really core to their business.
Exactly. And the report actually says that AI-first companies are outperforming traditional tech businesses in their portfolio.
That's significant.
It is. And this is having a big impact on venture capital, too. Investors are really starting to pay attention to AI.
Because they see the potential for big returns.
Exactly. And that means that traditional businesses are going to have to adapt or they're going to get left behind.
Right. Now, for our listener, I think the takeaway here is that AI is really transforming how businesses are built and scaled. It's not just about doing things a little bit better. It's about doing things completely differently.
I agree. And that brings us to, I think, a very important question. What does all this mean for the future of work, especially for software developers?
Right. And I remember reading about, warnings from some big names in tech, people at Anthropic, IBM, Meta. They were all talking about AI being able to automate a lot of software development work.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not just about suggesting code snippets anymore. We're talking about AI that can actually generate complex code, debug it, and even help design entire applications.
Wow, that's a pretty big deal. So for someone who's just starting out in software development, where should they focus their efforts?
Well, I think the focus is going to shift more towards high-level system architecture and things like integrating AI tools into the development process.
I see. So it's about like working with AI rather than being replaced by.
Right. And also being able to oversee and manage these AI systems. And of course, there will always be a need for people who can solve complex problems and understand user needs. That's something that AI, at least for now, can't really do.
Right, right. So for our listener, the key takeaway is that the skills that are going to be most valuable in the future are going to be different than the skills that are valuable today.
Right. Adaptability is going to be really important.
Okay, let's switch gears now and talk about how AI is impacting the creative world, specifically voice technology.
Yeah, this is a really interesting area. Sony recently came out with this new AI voice technology that can, like, perfectly replicate the voices of real actors.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and this caused a bit of a stir in the voice acting community. Ashley Birch, who, she's the voice of Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn,
Oh yeah, I know her work.
she voiced some concerns about, what this could mean for voice actors.
Right. I mean, if an AI can do your job, that's got to be worrying.
Right. And this gets to a bigger question about the role of AI in creative industries like Hollywood and gaming.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, you could see how AI could help lower production costs and maybe even create more personalized experiences. Like, imagine if game characters could have unique voices for each player.
Right.
But on the other hand, it does raise ethical concerns and labor concerns, like what about the voice actors? And what about the intellectual property rights of their voices?
Exactly. And as this technology gets better and more widely used, we're probably going to see new regulations and agreements to address these concerns.
Right, to try to protect voice actors and make sure they're compensated fairly.
Yeah. It's really a classic example of how technology can create both exciting possibilities and difficult challenges.
Okay, let's move on to another important topic,
Yeah.
regulation and transparency. Specifically, these new AI content labeling laws in Spain.
Right. Spain has implemented some pretty strict regulations around AI-generated content. Basically, anything created by AI, whether it's text, images, audio, or video, has to be clearly labeled.
And what happens if they don't label it?
Well, the fines are pretty hefty. We're talking millions of euros.
Wow. So they're serious about this.
They are. And the goal is really to combat misinformation and make sure people know what's real and what's created by AI.
So it's about transparency.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing this is just the beginning. I bet we're going to see more regulations like this in other countries.
Oh, absolutely. This is a global trend.
So any company that's involved in producing AI-generated content needs to pay attention and make sure they're following the rules.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's do a quick recap of what we've talked about today. We talked about the potential AI price war, which could make AI more accessible. We talked about how AI is driving growth and innovation in startups. We talked about the changing role of software developers and the impact of AI on the creative industries, especially voice acting. And we talked about the increasing need for regulation and transparency, like those new labeling laws in Spain.
Right. It's a lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's all really important stuff. And for our listeners, I think the main takeaway is that AI is changing the world in really profound ways, and it's only going to get faster and more intense.
Exactly.
So I want to thank everyone for listening to this deep dive. And if you're enjoying the show and want to help us keep it free and accessible to everyone, please consider making a donation. You can find all the information in the show notes. Every bit helps.
It really does.
And for those of you who have a business or a service you want to get in front of a large and engaged audience of professionals, we offer advertising opportunities on the podcast. Reach thousands of people and spread the word about what you do.
It's a great way to connect with the right people.
And finally, a little food for thought. As AI continues to advance, what industries or aspects of our daily lives do you think will be next to experience major disruption? What's going to change next?
Something to think about. Thanks again for listening.